"Oh my God!" Tom blurted out as he saw it. He turned and ran back to the farmhouse. He had to tell her. Out on the old farm, the locusts were swarming in the dry wind. There was nothing to eat this year, and they were aggravated. The drought was longer than expected, and no crop was harvested. The seedlings had not even been able to root into the soil before it dried up. Water was kept for more pressing needs like drinking. Shelley lived on the farm with her brother Tom. Farming had been in their family for generations. Tom ran into the farmhouse and called out for Shelley, who was trying to cool down from all the heat. "There's something wrong with the locusts," he panted out. Shelley was in a little bit of a daze from waking up suddenly. "What do you mean?" she mumbled. "I said there's something wrong with the locusts," he repeated. She scoffed at him. "What could be wrong with the locusts? We have no crop, and we aren't farming locusts. They are eating anything they can. They ate the goats." "The goats! You have lost your mind," Shelley said with a scoff. "The heat's getting to you." "I'm serious, Shelley." His voice was trembling now. "I went to the goat pen in the shade and there are just bones left. They have been picked clean. If they have already been eaten, what are we going to do about it?" "Well, I went to the Mitchell's farm next door and there was no one there, which is unlike them. They never leave their farm." "I think they were eaten too," Tom exclaimed. "Don't get worked up, Tom. You may be just jumping to conclusions." Shelley reluctantly got up and gained her bearings. She was never good after just waking up, especially in this heat. They both left the front porch of the house and headed down to the goat pen. The locusts' wings beat with a fury above. They disturbed some as they walked, and swaths of them took off into the air. They neared the pen, and Shelley gasped, "Oh my God, you're right. The bones are picked clean, and some of the locusts were still eating." Shelley leaned in closer. A locust with its tiny mandibles was chewing on a small remaining piece of flesh clinging to a bone. "They don't normally eat meat, do they? Don't they only eat plants?" Tom shrugged his shoulders, his arms opened wide. One of the locusts landed on his arm and bit down hard. Tom hit it off with his other hand and shouted, "Little bastard got me!" He crushed it under his foot. They looked at each other with a sudden realization. The humming was getting louder. There were more and more wings flapping, and it was getting closer. Simultaneously, they bolted for the farmhouse. It was a way off, but they could make it. The locusts were fast, and the front part of the swarm was already upon them. The sun was being blackened out like an eclipse of death. They had to be faster. Their wings were flapping like evil little machines, clicking and snapping, drowning out all the other sounds. Shelley was falling behind and slipped on a loose stone. She tumbled to the ground and lay flat. The locusts descended upon her, trying to cut her flesh off her body with their insatiable mouths. "What are you doing? Get up and run!" Tom screamed. She rolled over as fast as she could and got up. Tom had turned and rushed to her aid. He was swatting the locusts out the air in a frantic panic. After Shelley got up, they continued running again as fast as they could to get to the house. The small patches of missing skin and flesh were starting to show. When they got inside the house, they slammed the door shut and ran to close the windows. The locusts' bodies were pelting the house like giant hailstones in a furious storm. "Will they break the windows?" Shelley asked, as she was panicking and still hitting locusts off her body. They had got into her hair, bitten chunks out of her head, arms, and legs. The brother and sister looked at each other in despair. They phoned the sheriff's office to alert them of what had happened, but there was no answer. So they started to call other farms in the area, and no one was picking up. "Do you think they have all been eaten?" Tom asked Shelley. She just sighed, and he knew the answer. We hope that scared you a little. Remember to subscribe, and check out Creepy Midnight Stories for more.